Hey, this is Esoteric the Reb, and I wanted this one to be about some of what you can attract if you're trying to focus on spiritual endeavors. And understand, I'm not too picky when it comes to whatever spiritual system you're choosing, be it, if you're a Christian and you're trying to become sanctified through repentance, if you're a Buddhist and you're aiming for a enlightened state of non-suffering, if you're a hermeticist slash alchemist and, you're aiming for the stone, or you're aiming to make the perfected version of yourself, you got to understand, what's the common thread there if you're trying to become sanctified through Christ? If you're trying to be in a state of non-suffering, I would call that a state of perfection. You know what I mean? So you're essentially, when you're following these paths, you're trying to become a purified, really purified, best version of yourself. And there's different ways that you can do that, and there's different ways that can take shape. So I don't judge too harshly based on whatever you felt drawn to. I felt drawn to all of them. I visited everything at some point. But what happens, or what can happen, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it, really, because you see in the spiritual community, right, people are trying to manifest their desires, right, a lover or money, or, those are material. The highest version of yourself likely isn't going to be so focused on material gains. Or you see, your average Christian, not your Christian that's trying to become perfected through repentance, but, the Christian that they might go to church on Sunday or every other Sunday, but throughout the week, they're arguing and screwing whoever, and, largely living life as if Christ didn't exist. So those people don't really experience this, and they really don't have a lot of spiritual experiences. But what happens if you really are earnestly trying to attain these things? Well, in my experience, you will attract a lot of spiritual warfare. And I bring this up because I had an experience last night. It was one of the most intense spiritual experiences I've ever had. And this one wasn't... I'm sure you've heard of sleep paralysis. If you don't know what sleep paralysis is where you wake up while you're sleeping, but you can't move. Your body is paralyzed, and while this is going on, you'll see things move around the room, things like that. And most of the time when this happens, a sleep paralysis episode happens, what people see are terrifying. They might see aliens in the room, or shadows creeping up on them, or I can think of a classic image of a painting of somebody that drew an image of like a demon sitting on his chest while he was asleep. And a lot of people that aren't too well versed in spiritual endeavors or spiritual matters kind of just blow it off as a medical thing. But you'll know that this isn't just a medical thing. Whenever you're trying to get closer to God, or getting closer to some type of spiritual perfection, or a state of non-suffering, or moksha, or whatever the hell you want to call it, things like this will happen to you. You'll get messed with. You'll see demons kind of manifest in people. Your light irritates them. They don't want you to have light, and they definitely want to knock you off of your journey. And this is actually, I believe, the reasoning behind gang stalking. Ultimately, they don't want these people that have a strong inner light to cultivate that light. But last night, this has been going on, it was a couple nights in a row, maybe 3 nights in a row, where I was having a dream. And in this dream, at some point, a female spirit, she wasn't a spirit in the dream. In the dream, she would be the role of a character, but she'd start chasing me and coming after me, and And, I'd wake up from the dream and I might pray or something like that and go back to sleep. But last night, I've never experienced anything like this. This was a shadow being unlike any that I'd previously come across. And it was kind of like the other dreams. I can't even remember exactly what was going on in the dream, but it was like the others. I started getting chased by a female, and then I remember in the dream, I ran into a room, and I hid next to a bed. And when I did that, in the dream, I got jerked awake. And my entire torso, I was sleeping on my side, my entire torso and head gets stretched back. And I'm awake now. My eyes are open. I can't move my body. I'm in sleep paralysis. But the top part of my body is up in the air. And this shadow, huge shadow, comes, I was sleeping on the couch, comes out of the cushion and looks at me and says, well, I guess it was looking at me. I guess it was facing me. All I saw was shadow. And it says, if I'm a vampire, then you and I really can't be neighbors, can we? And I was stuck in the air. Like, it wasn't like I was laying down and this thing, had me wake up out of a sleep paralysis. This big ass motherfucker was actually able to make me come up off the seat and say that to me. And I was fighting with all my might to get out of the sleep paralysis. And finally, I was just able to utter the word Dad. Like, I was referring to God, God the Father, like, Dad, and then it let me go. And I was able to, reorient myself and get my poise back. But it really, really messed with me. And I think that it's definitely what inspired today's video, was that rising spiritually, obtaining more light, becoming more and more well-versed in spiritual matters, having a desire to spread that light, a desire to spread that love. Not only that, if you're like me, you're not afraid to take part in the spiritual warfare. And so if you're one of these people that's not afraid to take part in the spiritual warfare, these attacks can get ramped up and ramped up and ramped up. I've experienced night terrors before where I've been chased in dreams, forced awake, but that was the first time I've ever come across something that was able to literally lift me up and speak to me so vividly. And you really don't see it. I think a lot of people, when they get into spiritual endeavors and spiritual matters, they think it's going to make their life better. Ultimately, I think it does. It does make your life better. You could be a more contented person, a more loving person, a happier person. But in terms of spiritual warfare, just understand that it can come on, and it can come on hard. Especially when you're like me. Like, I've got a video on here exposing shadow people and how they move and some of the things that they do. And I'm not afraid to tell people, hey, these beings are real. They're after you. They hate you. And as a result, I every once in a while have to suffer through something like that. I think that these things serve a purpose. I think it's almost like a yin-yang, where the more spiritual warfare you face, it really pushes you to achieve that goal of, getting closer to God or enlightenment or sanctification, or because you just really, really, really want to be in that energy, in that space of feeling safe and secure. Because especially once you know certain things, certain occulted information, and you have certain spiritual gifts and spiritual abilities, they want to take you down. So if you fall farther away from God, that gives them the opening. You know what I mean? So moments like that can definitely wake you up, push you closer. I know some people are like, well, why does God let the devil exist or anything. You got to understand, this isn't heaven. We're not in heaven. We're on earth where light exists, where darkness exists. And oftentimes people fall from the light and they head into darker matters, and people are mistreated by the dark and it heads them into lighter matters. Like a yin yang. But that was crazy. If I'm a vampire, then you and I can't be neighbors. I was like, what in the hell is going on? It was everything I could do. Everything I could do to say the word dad. And that was it. It was over. But man, I was trying with all my strength too. I just wanted to punch this thing. I couldn't. I could not. You know what I mean? Because it was damn near the size of the entire end of the couch cushion. And I made sure to not sleep on the couch after that. That's all for this one. I just think people need to be ready. If you have a real goal of greater and greater spiritual heights, you will be tested. You will be tested, or, in my opinion, you're not doing it right. If you're not being tested, you're not doing it right. That's all for this one.